Hey everybody, happy Sunday. It's Sunday, December the 14th, 2025. And I hope this finds you well and in the hustle and the bustle, or the snooze and the refuse, I guess, of the season. It really is an individual experience. I am loving today's sunlight, but let me get to my point. Which, if you know me or you love me, in all my 49 years, sometimes I feel like I've failed to reach my point, and sometimes I feel like I've been making the same point over and over and over again. But regardless, I like the sound of my own voice, and I'm wearing this really cool yellow sweater, so if all else fails, we have that. But what I want to talk about, so I just made a video about another tool that I use, but I often will talk about being qualified as an emotional CPR practitioner or certified in emotional CPR, right? And and it's like, it's easy to kind of hear those things or to see an acronym and think, oh my gosh, okay, this person just thinks they are somebody or they're doing something. But sometimes it's actually really important to take a minute and let people know what I'm talking about and why I'm talking about it. So, emotional CPR is really about similar to mental health first aid. So, when we're dealing with folks who are experiencing crisis, maybe they experience crisis due to mental health or substance abuse, maybe they've experienced trauma, or maybe they've been in a workplace, or they're veterans or something. It's life isn't cut. It's not so easy, right, to just know, even if we feel it. It's not so easy to know everything all at once, right? And when we're becoming what they call culturally competent, so, learning enough so that we're not creating harm for other people, or we're not contributing to the oppression that we feel when we're dealing with things like racism and sexism and homophobia and transphobia, toxic masculinity, because these are all world experiences, right? So we all have an individual experience and response. What emotional CPR is, and why I really love it, is it's developed by Dr. Daniel Fisher, who experienced the labels and the diagnoses and the stigmas around schizophrenia. And often he'll describe the state that he was in due to crisis, and how he was really kind of catatonic, and couldn't really make connection to the outside world. And it's really powerful to sort of hear his stories and watch his videos and learn about how it was really through a couple of orderlies, through just their kindness, their want to be of service, not by leading people through or patronizing, but looking for symbols and signals that communication was being received. And it's quite powerful. He will talk about sort of like a moment where the person said, if you understand me, just nod or what have you, and how that was the very first step to him being able to communicate again to the outside world. And then again, long story short, it becoming an evidence-based practice that's practiced around the world is pretty incredible. So, emotional, the E, we know what that means. The C stands for connecting. So it's really like, what are we connecting? We're connecting sometimes to ourselves, sometimes from us to outside. Sometimes we're trying to connect to services or people or things, and it really is about trying to address the best approach so that we can get what we need, right? The E is, or the P is empowerment. So I know empowerment starts with E, but, do we need power? Is it really a power struggle all the time? Or can we kind of, look at empowering people instead, where we get to empower ourselves and each other? And then revitalizing, because, trauma is trauma, mental health is mental health, struggle is struggle. Does that mean we always have to talk about things from a lens of that? No. We can definitely do more than one thing at once. We can live a radical life of emotional response, and we can work together to revitalize and to make a better effort, right? Just in the support of our own care and addressing the needs. So ECPR is amazing because it's used for consumer-run organizations, and there's lots of things and factors that, whether we're working in those environments, volunteering, experiencing them, we can learn these tools for ourselves to make those practices better. We can talk about healthcare reform, so what's needed in healthcare to help everybody out. There's no doubt right now that people are stressed out. Peer support, what that looks like then, now, and tomorrow. Digital mental health, so what does it mean to be connected now? Information technology, so understanding the nuts and bolts. Employment resources, empowering resource sites so we can share, right, supports and resources to keep going and keep growing. Supported education, so how are we supporting our own education and supporting the education of others? Not an academic way per se, but that sort of self-education that we learn. Financial literacy, I'm right on that path, my gosh. I'm turning 50 and I don't know if I'm financially literate yet. So that's help me help myself. Because we all do have ways. We all have tips and tricks that we've survived, even if we've never felt safe, right? Or we've never felt financially secure. There are communities and people who make it work all the time. So learning from each other really helps. Medication optimization, and you'll hear me talk about that more through some other certifications, but it's really looking at, especially people who deal with, some pretty heavy stuff that needs some medications that can affect their body. They still have rights. We still have rights. We get to choose what is working for us, and it's really how do we connect with ourselves and each other so that we can connect to our medical professionals. And then crisis as universal experiences. We're talking about really like hospital diversion. So it's like, how do we avoid sending ourselves or each other or others to hospital? Because we can avoid those things. There's so many things we can do ahead of that. And especially when we're thinking ahead or planning ahead using advanced directives, we can really look at, like, there's ways where you can sort of create like a crisis hostel or a crisis respite and shelter in place, so to speak. Crisis services, so effectiveness, cost effective, looking at funding strategies. So if we're looking at organizing or bringing these things into our workplaces, I can support information and referrals, networking. I support things like conference planning, workshop planning. I love to think about publishing and media, policy issues. I love representing on national and international panels or supporting the boards. I don't want to sign up to be on everybody's board. I'm not here for that. I have some very strong opinions about a lot of boards. And so again, it's, looking at how else can we support. So I love a good pop-in. I love a good topic. You can book me for a visit, a party, whatever. Research, development of educational resources, and development of self-help resources. So again, this is stuff we can do as individuals. If you're going through a thing, or if you're in the workplace, or you're in a peer environment, you need some mentoring. So it's really great for things like consumer survivor groups. Those are ever evolving. Recovery stories, trauma, cross disability, which could be also a clinical, like comorbidities. You might have heard that term. Legal self-determination, emotional distress and crisis response, managed care, self-help, empowerment, recovery, social integration and wellness, crisis alternatives, right? Peer respites, and what it means to start a peer-run crisis alternative, and warm lines and resources. So I love it, I love it, I love it. And why is it? Well, so, I often think I'm like Charlton Heston in the old movies, like where he comes running out to alert people of the dangers, like Soylent Green is people. I want to be that guy. I want to get out there. I want to have a speakerphone and just say, hey, there are ways to feel better. Get over it, right? But we're surrounded by that. What I love is, there are new tools. I was a kid's help phone warm liner from my youth and my childhood. I turned into a warm liner when I started to address people living with and experiencing HIV and AIDS back in the 90s. And that has just carried over into, what I do as a social action taker, social actionist, activist, artist, performer, humanoid, bus operator, union member, whatever role I'm playing, right? We take all of this with us. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I love a good ECPR session. I love talking about it, but I love practicing it. So just the act of sitting and listening and then feeding it back. If you would like some care, if you'd like some practice, if you need a session, if you want to do a thing, please reach out. I do have some general rate guidelines, so I can have that information available to you. So I have a number of certifications and practices that I'm involved in, but generally the guideline is $60 an hour if it's virtual, $120 if it's an individual session, and it's in person, it's hands-on. So if it involves Reiki, if it involves any kind of guidance or any sort of follow-up request or anything like that. But it can be as simple as just having a person that you can check in on and get those services. So it's really about an individual experience. Anyway, all that to say, let's do it. So it's all about how we can connect people to purpose, their purpose, as determined by them or us, and how we can revitalize, restore, and reset. And whether you have to do it 100 times a day, 100 times a minute, or 100 times in your whole lifetime, there's tools and resources available to make that happen. And I've got the hiccups, so I'm going to go and drink more coffee. Thanks everybody for taking up the time and the space to listen to my face, and enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know how it goes. If you feel vulnerable, if it doesn't feel right to share publicly, do feel free to slide into my DMs. I really need people to understand that I have been a very public person for a lifetime. And my personal care, my personal privacy is my priority. I am here as a participant first. It's easy to think we compete and we compare. We don't. I don't. That's not what I'm here for. So I hope this resonates. If you think, oh my gosh, that's so curious, don't even listen to me. Go see how it applies to you. Go see if there's other communities and spaces and places near you. Okay? It's not to say, there's a door, I'll see you later. It's just to say, nothing you'll see or hear me talk about is something where I think I'm above or below anybody else. In peer support and warm lines, in being a person who cares, it's about continuously showing up, right? For myself and for others. So have a wonderful rest of your day.